Chainsaw Man Reze Arc is the best anime film of the year. And yes, I'm very aware of what I'm comparing with when I say that. From the mind-blowing animation and cinematography, to the new characters that you're going to fall in love with, to the stellar soundtrack, which includes 3 banger songs by massive Japanese artists, including one who wrote the song before season 1 had even aired, there is a lot to fall in love with here. And the animation team came out to New York Comic-Con to share some interesting insights to give you more appreciation for what went into making it. According to the director, this is a new genre. Love, violence, romance, action, shark. And this movie has every one of those in spades. So let's get into what makes this movie so good, some surprising background details about what went into making it, and why this is all a great sign for the inevitable season 2. Jumping right into it, this film is gorgeous. Assistant director Makoto Nakazono told everybody at New York Comic-Con that while they wanted to inherit everything they could from the anime series, because film is a different size, they had to work really hard on adjusting all of the backgrounds to fit into a theater frame. CGI director Yusuke Tanawa added that fusing 2D and 3D animation so that they can coexist into one visual style is very challenging, and so that was the team's focus. In order to create a 2D film with 3D construction, they would first go in and build all of the set pieces, the cars, the buildings, the models, in 3D so that they could get the right positioning, and then they would add the 2D artwork on top of that. And their effort really shows. During the panel, they showed some examples of key art through different versions up until the final product, and the characters feel like they're inhabiting the world rather than sitting in front of it, like can sometimes happen when 2D and 3D isn't combined properly. The film also has some really cool animation and framing choices. While I can appreciate a studio that's defined their visual style and then strictly adheres to it for consistency in a project, I personally really like it when a team will let their animators try out new things. Even better if it looks sick as hell and has me wondering the whole time who came up with this approach. From POV shots or behind the character tracking like Denji jumping into a pool, to some clever pan and follow shots with bomb devils attacks as they're being thrown at different enemies, to dropping to I think 6 FPS during a festival scene to give it a nostalgic memory kind of feel, to a climactic 2v2 devil fight where it feels like they're trying 12 different styles as different techniques are being thrown around and the tide of the battle is shifting. You'll know that moment when you see it. There's 1 minute in the fight sequence that had me shocked like 5 different times, as it feels like they're moving between different styles and techniques, color schemes, and even speeds. Character designer Sugiyama said that the action scenes are like an amusement park ride. You can just empty your head and enjoy them, which is totally true because I zoned out in the best way just focusing on all of the cool fight scenes. And director Yoshihara added, devils gain power by eating blood, so the team offered up a whole lot of blood, which was said in jest and laughing, so I'm taking that to mean more of a humorous reference to the team putting in a lot of their heart and soul to the project, not the overwork which is unfortunately endemic in the animation industry. Given the way he said it, choosing to believe it was more lighthearted. The character models are also updated from season 1. According to assistant director Nakazono, Makima and Power's hair was made more vibrant in the film, for example. And also, Denji thinks Reze is so cute, so they had to add a lot of little details so that the audience would feel that way as well. Having seen it twice with a full audience for premieres, I can say they absolutely succeeded. She's amazing. The individual storylines are also equally strong in this movie. Denji's finally starting to kinda get along with his coworkers and clearly falling for Makima, despite his libido's short attention span anytime another woman so much as pays a small modicum of attention to him. But now, much like the story of the country mouse versus the city mouse that we see referenced in the film, he's starting to consider a life outside of public safety. If you've seen season 1 and know his whole sad backstory, Denji's very used to just doing what's told of him, and it's rather easily baited along, but now he's starting to consider what if he made different choices, choosing something for himself. Aki gets his own growth arc, along with Angel, who we previously didn't know too much about. And the Aki and Angel shippers, who I apparently know of at least one, will get something to cheer for in this film. The movie even gives us Beam, who is undeniably best girl of the film, and we need another movie just about Beam and Chainsaw Man. Beam better be in every episode of season 2, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, go see the movie, and then come back and you can write in the comments how correct I was. Beam is incredible, more Beam, Beam forever. Power is still delightful and hilarious anytime she shows up. Reze is a bad bitch who you're gonna fall for quicker than Denji, which speaks really to the writing of her character. And we even get more of Makima, who reveals a deeper part of herself in a couple scenes about seeing movies and the power that cinema can have on someone, which is really a reflection on the beliefs and character of the manga author Tatsuki Fujimoto himself. If you've read his prior masterpiece to Chainsaw Man, Fire Punch, or the one-shot that came out after Look Back called Goodbye Eri, you'll know that's a common theme that he puts in all of his works because it's something that's important to him. And side note, those are the two works that haven't yet had animated projects announced, and I would bet large sums of money, given the success of this, Look Back, and the upcoming adaptation of his works from 17 to 26, we're gonna see animated announcements for both of those series in the next couple of years. And given a prior comment a few years ago from the MAPPA CEO that he would love for them to do every one of Fujimoto's works, I'm really hoping that once Chainsaw Man ends, they announce that they're picking up the rights for Fire Punch, given everything they demonstrate in this movie for animating explosions and fire and the absolute madness that is going on in Fujimoto's mind. It's here we need to look at the history and reaction to Season 1 to explain a few changes that happened in the movie. Season 1 was directed by Ryu Nakayama. Tatsuya Yoshihara served as action director and directed episodes 4 and 10, and Makoto Nakazono was chief episode director. Those two now serve as director and assistant director on Season 2. But another credit worth focusing on in Season 1 is the demon designs, which was done by Kiyotaka Oshiyama. You might recognize his name from other anime he worked on. He directed Flip Flappers, which is one of my personal favorites. But you probably recognize his name because he directed the Look Back animated film last year, which was based off of the one-shot manga of the same name by Tatsuki Fujimoto. Reading that manga was such a memorable experience for me that I bought 10 copies and gave it out to all of my friends so that they could experience it as well. And if you haven't seen Look Back, you can check out my video explaining why that's the best animated film of last year, including some insights from an interview I did with the director. And I'll include a link to that video and the interview transcript down below. Season 1 was gorgeous, and I felt it did a good job capturing the feeling of the manga while giving some scenes time to breathe, so that we could grow more attached to the core cast, such as the added breakfast scene in Aki's apartment. The OP was a reference to a lot of films, presumably that influenced Fujimoto, and they took a really interesting approach with the ED where every single episode, the ending was a different song and a different animation, which both allowed them to highlight more music, as well as give the animation team different opportunities to flex and show what they could do. The ending for episode 3 by Maximum the Hormone alone made the entire project worth it. And remember that band name because it's actually going to be really important when we talk about the music for this movie. Unfortunately, Nakayama made a comment that Japanese netizens got way too hung up on, and it led to a very vocal online campaign against him. Some of them said they didn't like the direction that the anime took visually, or scenes that got cut out or dialogue that was changed, which might be fair, but it seemed a little overblown and largely in reaction to this one thing that he said that, at least for me, seemed taken a little bit out of context. It didn't prevent the series from doing well, and with MAPPA choosing to forego the usual production committee model so that they were taking on all of the cost risk, but also taking on all of the revenue themselves, it seems like they made their money back. However, the damage was still done. We don't know exactly what causes led to the decision, but when it came time to announce the Reze movie, they announced that the direction was going to be done by Yoshihara, that action director from Season 1. Even more interestingly, when 2 compilation movies were put out before the Reze film, compiling all of Season 1 into these 2 movies, it was Yoshihara who was listed as the director. And the films were largely lauded by the same people who had decried what had happened with Season 1. Those films include some changes to scenes as well as some cuts, obviously, some changes to the color and character designs, which are better reflective of what would be seen in the Reze film, and some dialogue changes as well. I don't agree with a lot of the criticism about Season 1 and personally enjoyed it a lot. It felt like a really interesting creative decision to try to make more nods to the films that Fujimoto loved so much. However, I can't disagree that I really do like the brighter color palette and the quicker pace of this film. And given the film's success already, and perhaps more importantly, the ability to shut up all of the annoying people who were complaining about Season 1, I will not be surprised if they invite Yoshihara back to be the director for the inevitable Season 2. Frankly, I'd be a little disappointed if they don't. The movie introduces both the audience and Denji to Reze, along with other characters like Beam, of course, and throughout the film, both he and us will grow to care for her. Much like Denji is faced with a conundrum between his existing feelings for Makima and his burgeoning feelings for Reze, a lot of the Makima simps are going to be forced to question their allegiance. And rightly so, she's amazing. Those of you who just cheer for the Chaos Queen power, you may not struggle as much. Of course, everybody who's seen the movie knows that Beam is best girl. And no, I'm not going to stop saying in this video. Get ready to hear more of it. If you've seen the movie, you understand. Beam is amazing. The only reason I don't have Beam figures right here is they're not available yet. Mappa pump those out and you can just take my money. I will buy all of them. Anyway, the film has a beginning that introduces us to new characters and a new conflict. It has a middle where the conflict escalates, and it has an ending where the conflict is resolved, the way a movie should. This is not to rag on Demon Slayer Infinity Castle, which I did really enjoy, but to me and many other people, it felt like 7 episodes of an anime season that was instead released into theaters as a movie. And with the incredible popularity of Demon Slayer and how much it's done to grow the anime community, I don't really mind it as a one-off case, but as a movie that's really 3 interconnected fights connected by a bird reporting on the results of some of them to people, with a second film that's going to take place just minutes after the first, I just don't want that to start a trend. Anime seasons should be used to cover larger events, and movies should be for self-contained arcs that can work in a single movie, like this did, or Demon Slayer Mugen Train. Most of us still remember Attack on Titan: The Final Chapters, Part 1 and Part 2. Those 2 movies that the whole community seemed to agree were probably split up for cash reasons and would have been better served added on to the season that we had that was the final season Part 2. And clearly the studio agreed when they combined those 2 films and repackaged it as Attack on Titan: The Final Attack, which also came out in theaters. I'll get off my soapbox here. Just to reiterate, I love that this movie can stand on its own. While I definitely wouldn't recommend it as the preferred approach, you could take a friend who has never seen season 1 of Chainsaw Man to this film, and barring maybe explaining a couple larger world-building concepts, they'll understand the movie just fine and probably appreciate it. Alright, let's get into the music for this movie because it deserves a lot of attention as well. The soundtrack for this movie is by incredibly prolific composer Kensuke Ushio, who not only is a longtime partner to Naoko Yamada and worked on Liz and the Bluebird, A Silent Voice, and The Colors Within, but also does a lot of anime soundtracks, including very recently the incredible soundtracks for both seasons of Dandadan. Not only did he do those 2 back-to-back, he also did the soundtrack for this movie as well, and there's so many catchy tunes in it. In a world where a lot of movies are getting very bland and template-y soundtracks where you leave the film and you can't necessarily remember any of the tracks, there's a lot of earworms in this one. The song that plays during the pool scene, for example, is stuck in my head, and then the way that it comes back in a particular scene in Act 3, which really fits the moment, shows that he actually crafted a soundtrack for the film the way it should be done, and when you see this, you'll understand. You've likely heard the theme song by now, Iris Out by Kenshi Yonezu. It's one of the top tracks in Japan and has been since the first promotional video dropped for this film. And having heard the song over 24 times at this point, I can safely say it will not wear out its welcome. The song is cleverly worked into the film almost like a standalone OP, except as part of the movie, as we see the cast getting ready to enter their day and the film. And it's a joy to watch. You can also view it as the actual music video on YouTube. But then there's the ending, which features Kenshi and a female singer whose voice might have you going, wait, this sounds really familiar. And the reason it sounds so familiar is because that's Hikaru Utada. Yeah, that Hikaru Utada. The one responsible for all those Kingdom Hearts songs, Simple and Clean, Sanctuary, Don't Think Twice, and Face My Fears. And the one responsible for all of the theme songs for the Rebuild of Evangelion movies. She's one of Japan's top-selling artists of all time, and that's a reason she gets attached to so many incredible projects like that. Her last anime song before this was in 2022, and she came back to the medium to do this ending, and it will tear at your heartstrings in the best way possible. It's actually a third song that I think is the most interesting though. Do you remember that frenetic, pulsing, hardcore song from the episode 3 ending of the anime? That song is Hawatari Nyoku Senshi, which is by Maximum the Hormone, a band you might have heard me reference earlier, and by the way, one of the most fun live performances I've ever seen. That band is electric. Guitarist and male vocalist Maximum the Ryokun is a huge fan of the Chainsaw Man manga, and he previously noted that while he tends to write new songs slowly, when it comes to writing a song for an anime he really loves, he writes at high speed. When they got to do the song for season 1, he said, "It has always been my dream to have a song used in a Chainsaw Man anime, so it's the same as Denji's dream of rubbing breasts. If there's a sequel, please use Hormone's music." Well, he got his wish, but there's an interesting potential reason why that may have happened. As I mentioned, that song was an ending for the anime, but if you ever tried to listen to the full version, you may have noticed that there's only a 90-second version available, which is pretty unusual. Until you find out that the reason we don't have the rest of the song is because it was all a spoiler for the rest of the story. For the movie, they were brought back to do the only other song with lyrics, even though it's not the OP or ED. And the song is called Hawatari Nyoku Senshi's 70% Unlocked edit because the second verse is all about Reze. That's right, Maximum is such a fan, they wrote a song about the entire manga story before season 1 had even aired. If you're looking for it, the song plays during a chase scene in the movie, and the moment when Denji gets kicked into a building is when the new part of the song that we hadn't previously heard kicks in. Also, notice how the title includes 70% Unlocked edit? That means they're still holding 30% back. That's the part that's about the rest of the story. Volumes 1 through 4 covered season 1, and volumes 5 and 6 of the manga cover this movie. There's still volumes 7 through 11, which would cover the inevitable season 2 that we definitely are going to get, and this song being withheld is just another reason. We need to hear the 100% fully unlocked version, and Maximum have clearly locked themselves in through such a passion project that that song is going to be used in some way. let's switch this out. Decided to switch out my figures since I got this bad boy and I need to show him off. I could keep rambling about this movie, but hopefully by now I've convinced you to go see it. And based on the data, it seems like many of you have, because this movie is doing very, very well. While nothing is likely to touch the Infinity Castle numbers until the part 2 of that movie comes out, the data we have shows that the film is doing spectacularly. It's grossed approximately $68 million as of October 19th, which that data is already a little outdated by the time I'm making this movie. And in the US, on the Thursday early release, it made $3.4 million, which is more than JJK Zero made. And that's not a shot at that movie, it's just to highlight how great this is doing. And while MAPPA's decision to fully fund Chainsaw Man projects themselves rather than use the traditional production committee model may have seemed risky during season 1 because it meant they were taking on all of the cost risk, now given the success of the movie, it's clearly the right move for them because they get to keep all of the revenue, barring any cost they owe to like distributors such as Toho and Sony. For fans of the series, those numbers are a huge deal, and again, this is just starting to come out in the US, so that's gonna gross a lot more money for them, which is a great sign that the series is popular, and even more motivation for MAPPA to give us that eventual season 2 to conclude the story. If you're watching this video in the US, the film is already available as of the day that this is dropping, and odds are if you're in another country, it's already available because we were one of the last countries to get this one. Go out and see it in theaters. It's absolutely worth seeing it on the big screen with a full sound system and of course a full audience cheering next to you. I saw it twice, 2 different premieres, and I really appreciated the second opportunity because there's just so much fast-paced, incredible animation and interesting creative choices that I got to pick up on and pay more attention to those on a second viewing. So if you saw the movie, or especially if this helps to convince you to go out and see the movie, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Did you like it? Did you not like it? And of course, what did you think of Beam, the absolute best girl? Don't lie, everybody likes Beam. Nobody doesn't like Beam. And of course, let me know if you like this video because I'm doing a lot of short form stuff as well, but I like doing long form where I can talk more about these projects and hopefully, you know, it resonates with some other people in the audience. Let me know what you'd like to hear about next. There's plenty of other anime that I saw this year, as well as some animated features from a film festival that I want to talk about, including this is my favorite anime film of the year, but it's tied for my favorite animated film of the year, and the one it's tied with is not the one you're thinking of. So let me know what you'd be interested in. Of course, a subscribe, a like is super helpful, a comment so I know what's resonating and even what isn't. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.